Let's get into this video. Let's see what they have to say about base building and crafting in their Q&A, and hopefully some good details and questions answered. Thanks for coming.
You picked a big one to start us off with, so we'll just jump right into it. What can player bases be used for? How will base building integrate with other gameplay features such as mining and trading? Anyone?
Not all at once. Okay, I'll take this one first. Yeah, so this is a big one because we really believe that base building will enable us to really change the universe, the way that players will interact with one another or not want to interact with one another, and it will become hopefully more of the backbone of the game, where even if you want to interact with it or not, one way or another, you are always influenced by the gameplay loops of...
Are you forcing me into multi-base gameplay?
Base building. So, for an example, maybe you're just a small miner and you want to just mine your resources and kind of ship that out and make a nice living out of that. Then for you, it might actually be good to have a small little base close by the mining resources to more efficiently do your gathering of your resources and so on. And the cool thing with base building is that we're trying to keep the possibilities as open as possible, so that you can actually choose what you want to do with your bases yourself. So maybe you have these weird bases just tucked away in the universe where it's just like there's no electricity and you just use it to store away some of the stuff you found in the universe. Or maybe it is a more of a sprawling trading hub for you and your organization, or a base just built for the most efficient refining processes or such. Again, the guys know a little bit more about the specific processes, but from a visual perspective, what we're really trying to do is to just give you a beautiful base template that you then can let your imagination on loose and kind of use it the way you want to use it as a player. Even though
I want to build a magma harvesting base. Give me my Mustafar. I don't know. I'll come up with a reason for it. We produce steam. We ship water to this lava-ridden planet and then make steam and then sell that. Whatever excuse I need. I want to set up a base on a lava planet and then paint it black and red. And maybe scream at my mentor about it a little bit. How he lied to me. And I'm not the chosen one and all that, you know, just... I don't know. They love their Star Wars references. I figure I should lean into it.
So it might be very different than other players.
Yeah, I think you really hit on it there. It's very much a base can be used for whatever you want to use it for. That will provide options for you to do all kinds of stuff with it. And there should be, or is likely to be, relevant links into pretty much any kind of gameplay that you can think of.
So we're
actually adding to that.
Go ahead.
Adding to that, it's like it's a growing feature in addition to what we have already, right? So every gameplay loop that we have will be also have its representation in the not every, but most of the gameplay features that we have will probably have a representation in the base building aspect, and the bigger our game grows, the more features are introduced, they will also find a slot in the base, in your base.
And just, so we're talking about... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, even if you don't have your own base, it's still impactful because you'll be visiting the other people who've made their bases and using their facilities. So even if you...
That's a huge detail. How much do player-made bases tie into the economy or tie into locations that you can actively know and do business with is... We don't know much about that.
Doing the work, it's still an interesting thing for you to use.
So we're talking player housing, obviously, refining bases, fabrication bases for crafting, which we'll get into more today. Hunting lodges for people who want to go out and take out the fauna and stuff. Logistics, you mentioned storage stuff. It's basically, and then it goes on and on and on. It's whatever folks want to use their bases for. There will be some way, shape, or form to support that.
Just want an outhouse.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I'm the highway stop that everybody's constantly looking for because they want a clean bathroom, but all the gas stations are disgusting.
One of the big questions that folks had, we're of course on our journey to 4.0 right now. Folks are watching the PTU for the next wave and release and the eventual publication of 4.0. The big question I saw probably most commonly after CitizenCon was, how does all this work with shards?
There we go. You knew it was going to happen.
This
you
is
knew
a big one
up.
indeed. I think I saw this asked 20 odd times.
Yeah.
So the plan is that every base, every plot of land, every extraction pot will be visible across all the shards within a region. And then a lot of the functionality of the base will also be...
Whoa. Wait a second. That was a little detail he said there.
across all the shards within a region.
Within a region. I don't think we've heard that before. That's also the insinuation that they will. I mean, you don't have to read into every word that comes out of devs' mouths, but that is an insinuation that we will have multiple shards per region, which I think everybody is kind of thinking is going to have like one shard per region, even on its own, is kind of wild. You know, one shard for the world is crazy. One shard per region is also kind of wild. Could that mean, you know, there's multiple shards per region, so you will be your bases will be in that region, but if you say go from the US region of shards, let's say there's 5 shards per each region, right? You got US East, US West, US South, US Central, US North, whatever. If you go from US West to US East, your base is still there, but if you go from US West to Australia West, then your base is not there. Is what maybe it sounds like. Why do we need server meshing then? Because it's still a halfway point. I mean, server meshing doesn't make it so the whole world can be together, but it will still make it so that many groups can be together. And it's less about the idea of how large can the geographic set of people be, and more so how much stuff can you have happening in real time that's interacting with one another. But there are definitely things that are being revealed right now with the project that are showing that server meshing will not carry this to the ultimate goal of one massive environment that everybody's working in. They're aiming for whatever they can get farthest in, and that probably means scaling some things back. And one of those things is possibly multiple shards per the region. Maybe that's just a midpoint thing that they're doing. Maybe this guy is misspeaking, but at least that's what I would base my understanding off of, is you will actually be able to get to these locations in other shards and there will be nothing there, which is something we talked about when we were going over the last presentation. People were worried about, will you be able to camp land on a different shard where you have nothing to do with that people can't use? No, not if you're in a different region, it sounds like.
With shards.
Yep, this is
really
a big
important
one
answer to
indeed.
start
I
with.
saw this asked 20 odd times. So the plan is that every base, every plot of land, every extraction pot will be visible across all the shards within a region. And then a lot of the functionality of the base will also be available across all the shards within a region. So if I make a base and I set up a shop, people on other shards can come visit and use my shop. The exception is going to be raiding and attacking a base. This can only occur on a single shard, and which shard that is dynamic based on the rule set. The easiest rule is always, is the owner online? Then the raid can only occur on that owner's shard. This means that if I'm on another shard and I rock up with a gun and I shoot the base, it'll prompt me, you'll have to change shard in order to attack this base.
Whoa. Okay. So that's... Huh. I'm glad they've clarified that as well. I don't know how I feel. This wasn't a super big sticking point for me, how bases would work in terms of rating online and off. But I did think that it would be a nice... It would be nice to allow somebody who wants the experience of your base always being in danger, or like wants that sort of nervousness that comes with having a base in a valuable place and needing to have your org figured out how to defend it certain times seemed like a nice bit of strategy to build into the game for groups and people who are looking for that gameplay versus high security locations that would allow you to know for certain that you're not going to get attacked unless maybe you're online or you're there or something like that, or you're just not going to get attacked at all. Like, I feel like maybe high security, you're not going to get attacked. Mid security, you're only going to get attacked while you're online. Low security, anybody might attack you at any point, and you kind of have to plan for that. That in itself seemed like gameplay for people. So the idea of making it so that your base is basically invulnerable while you're in offline, and somebody shoots it and they get like a pop-up on their screen. Imagine dropping a bomb on the base of your worst enemy after you finally found them. You drop this gigantic A2 bomb. You spent 40,000 credits buying it. You're like, yes, 2 days to find this base. We've finally done it. You drop the bomb. It hits the base and a pop-up comes up. They're like, you can't do that. It's not super Star Citizen in design, or I think what people were really used to, but it sounds like a pretty tough reality of trying to make base building work with this environment. I don't know. I think people will have very strong opinions on this one way or another. I'm glad that this is getting clarified right now and talked about, and I think it's good because people were just completely confused about how base building would work with this, but you have to be in the same shard online at the same time to attack somebody's base. If you're in a different shard in the same region, you can go to that base, trade, interact with it, all that stuff. You can't damage it, but you can do stuff. I wonder if when you get to that base on the other shard, once you enter it, the game match makes you and transfers you to that shard to interact with those people. And then once you leave that base, it puts you on the other shard. If that's the way that it works, I'm guessing it'll be something like that. And then in order to attack a base, you can't even be in the region. You have to be in the actual shard as well. It's an interesting way to do it. Limiting the attacks is I don't know. Let's keep listening and see how this is going to go. But yeah, there was always going to be some kind of complications with base building and the vulnerability of them when it came to server meshing, and I'm glad we're finally starting to hear more about that.
Obviously, as shards increase, we see this less and less, but the advantage of that is that you'll never be in this scenario where your shard, you're not able to defend your base. You'll always be able to defend your base in this scenario.
And if you're offline or there's a representation of your base in another shard, it's basically just a visual replica in those places.
Yeah, but people can also still use it, so the shops will still be functioning, that kind of thing. It's just when it comes to attacking, it all has to occur on a single shard.
Interesting. And I can already...
I mean, I'm okay with it with attacking occurring on a single shard. I don't know about saying that it can't be attacked if you're offline.
See half the comments already in response to that answer. There's still a road ahead between now and the release of base building and crafting. I promise you we will revisit this topic with more and more context on how that will work as server meshing comes online and the technology continues to evolve. As with everything, there's a plan today. As the technology progresses, that may change or evolve over time, but that's the current implementation that we're working towards, and you can guarantee we'll be talking about it again between now and the release. What will this look like this is just a follow-up. So how will this look like in terms of offline raiding and base defenses? Is there any aspect of this, if I just don't log in, is my stuff just always safe? Did
they make comments about this before? I'd actually be interested in hearing more about that, because I think I didn't actually know what their plans were in terms of base vulnerability.
Timer? Is there some danger? How do you get rid of old decrepit bases that are just abandoned?
Yeah, so if you are in the scenario where your base is in a lawless area and you haven't secured the planetary shield tech from the previous week's station warfare, then you are open to be raided whether you're online or offline. You can create your own defenses to deter that. You will be able to create your own shielding, which forces them into a ground assault, walls to delay the ground assault, turrets and such, and then...
Hold on, sorry. I need to rewind that.
Yeah, so if you are in the scenario where your base is in a lawless area and you haven't secured the planetary shield tech from the previous week's station warfare, then you are open to be raided whether you're online or offline.
Okay. Okay. All right then.
Can create your own defenses to deter that. You will be able to create your own.
So you can still get that kind of gameplay in a low security area. That I wish they, yeah, see, that's why it's good to listen and see where it goes, because that is good to know. As long as they're still offering the ability for you to get into that, and now, you know, you go to the next step of, okay, how often, like, how much is that planetary shield thing gonna get involved with this? Is it going to be on every single planet that is lawless, or is this something specific to Pyro and Nyx? How does that work? But I'm really glad to hear that at least with low security systems, you can be attacked while offline. That's important because, yes, they don't want the whole game to be space rust. This isn't Citizen Rust or anything, but survival aspects, hardcore aspects of this game, the ability for players to deal with consequences and need to strategize around those consequences is super important, and they need to keep including that in this game. And I was really worried that they actually weren't taking that into account there. But if it's still possible in no security areas, I think that's a good thing. We'll still have to see how this goes. A lot of things and details can change with this. It can play very interestingly, and the game overall is clearly changing a little bit to fit how this is going to work. But we'll see.
Shielding, which forces them into a ground assault, walls to delay the ground assault, turrets and such, and then it could be the case where they're raiding the base and they don't actually know what's available to loot. They don't know what's in your storage, so it would be wise to occasionally take your valuables out of the lawless area and haul them back to a more safer spot like Terra or Stanton. But if you find yourself open like that, you can be raided.
Okay.
Cool.
I like how these first questions are all about how do I destroy and pillage other people's bases.
Oh man, that's what's important, Jared. You got to let's have our fun.
Not about how do I live my life in these bases. How do these bases make my life better and more enjoyable? The first questions right off the bat are, how do I take it away from somebody else?
It's great. We spent so much love and work in order to make the most beautiful bases, and now we're talking all about just getting rid of it. Great.
Yeah.
And that's, of course, like I said, the lawless systems like Pyro and stuff. Now, we did introduce, and you just mentioned the idea of planetary shields. How? What's our current plan for how those will work in high security systems versus low security systems?
Yeah, so the plan is with planetary shield tech that if you have it, your base is immune to attack, your stuff cannot be stolen, and there's actually two layers of shielding going on here. You have a air shield, which prevents bombardments, and then you also have basically it hugs the building, so even if you go through the shield with a tank and try and shoot the building directly, it still won't take damage. So you're very, very, very safe when it comes.
Sorry, I got to rewind this. I was just typing something.
How those will work in high security systems versus low security systems.
Yeah, so the plan is with planetary shield tech that if you have it, your base is immune to attack, your stuff cannot be stolen, and there's actually two layers of shielding going on here. You have a air shield, which prevents bombardments, and then you also have basically it hugs the building, so even if you go through the shield with a tank and try and shoot the building directly, it still won't take damage. So you're very, very...
It's basically just a safe. This is your green zone. Like, this is our armistice zone. This is what I think they should be doing in cities. You can use your weapons, but certain things are permanently protected from it. I wonder if they'll let players be attacked or anything, or if it's literally completely you can't do any sort of damage.
Very, very safe when it comes to planetary shield tech.
But this is the idea that people keep talking about. If we can be attacked, what's the point of base building? In high security places with planetary shields, you are good. And we can also see from earlier here, they're making sure that most players will literally just never have to worry about their bases getting attacked unless they're online.
And that's the same for if I build it out in the.
They're making this game very forgiving, and I'm sure from certain perspectives it doesn't appear that way. But compared to what this game had been kind of looking like, shaping up to be, they're making it quite forgiving, which I think is just part of turning an experience into a game and accounting for the overall player base. But you can tell they're trying to expand their player base. Definitely with Star Citizen recently.
First in, or if I put it on somewhere in Pyro and I have the credits to maintain the shield.
Correct. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay.
You can't attack a base on a different shard.
Will mining extractors and other processors automatically eject boxes, allowing anyone to just tractor them away, or will we have to eject them by hand?
All right, I'll take this one, but there's a few things here. So there's lots of different crafting machines that do their processes a little differently, but most of them will have an internal buffer that lets them hold the results of their process until you're ready to pick them up. That being said, you can also have them directly put stuff in boxes as soon as it's ready. But if you're worried about people nicking it, you don't need to be so concerned because they'll be subject to the same sort of permissions as anything else in your base. So that's like the mag lock that stops people stealing your chair will also stop them stealing your cargo boxes. Unless they have permission to move them, they'll be mag locked to the output grid.
And we'll get into the mag locks here in a little bit.
Yeah.
And how much can that grid carry? Can my base be putting out goods over the course of a day and then I come back and move them all, or do you have to keep coming back?
Also, there's going to be some machines that will be able to send their crafting results directly to your location storage.
Ooh.
Whether that be your hangar or a freight elevator or something.
Sounds like a good upgrade.
So there'll be options.
Yeah,
Right.
See, that's a solid upgrade. If you were going to tell me I need to do some research to upgrade my mining machine to send stuff directly to the storage, sure, whatever. Why do I need to upgrade to do that? That should be possible. I'd go through the effort to make that upgrade happen, though.
There was a mention, it says kind of like an underground transit system and stuff that allows certain buildings to connect with other buildings underground, even if you don't see them connected above ground.
Yeah. Freight elevator network.
Yeah. Hey, a mining question. Will underground deposits respawn over time, and how is the overall rarity of minerals accounted for in the economy?
Short answer, yes. So they will respawn, but it is very unlikely that they will respawn on the land plot that you already have. So if you already have a base, you already extracted it, every mineral that was below your extractor, it's very unlikely that...
Sorry, I missed that question too. I keep getting distracted.
Underground deposits respawn over time.
Oh, shoot!
Freight elevator
I think this is my question. What?
network.
Yeah. Hey, a mining question. Will underground deposits respawn over time, and how is the overall rarity of minerals accounted for in the economy?
No, I did not ask that.
Short answer, yes. So they will respawn, but it is very unlikely that they will respawn on the land plot that you already have. So if you already have a...
I asked the question, I think, about how would resources respawn in deposits and planets to encourage people to kind of move around and settle new bases and stuff like that. But this covers that too.
Base, you already extracted it, every mineral that was below your extractor, it's very unlikely that the deposit will respawn. So what we want to see there is players more moving around in their bases and basically going through new locations and actually grabbing new resources. And to answer the economy part of that question, yes, that is a huge undertaking that we have to go through here, and that is we really have to get certain resources out of the system, and the system being our game. And that means that we, as the system design team and everyone working on that, we really have to work closely with the economy team and make sure that like even everything that we pull out of the system is meaningful, and then we create certain values for certain resources, because we really want to have like a player-driven economy, and we want to have a healthy in-game economy that is driven by our game. And it's a challenge, but we are definitely motivated to resolve that and get that like in a really good state.
So what?
Go ahead.
What you're talking about there is like the concept of resource sources and sinks, because having your extractor on your base is a source of resources until it's depleted, but then we need to make sure that there's also sinks for that resource in various gameplay loops, so that you don't just have inflation essentially of.
This is you can keep going back. I always reference this one because I think this was a really key point in one of the monthly reports. I think it was last year, or this year rather. They mentioned sinks here. The economy team last year in March made a comprehensive list of all intended resource sources, transformers, and sinks to create and help ensure the economy is more stable in the long haul. So here he's talking about those sinks. These are things like stores, refineries, mines, different stuff that can factor into the economy. But they have been definitely, if you keep up with the monthly report, you can see over the last year they've been working quite a bit on it. And it sounds like a lot of that's coming in with 4.0, which is part of their reset. Part of their first chance to test an actual economy in the game that has like reasonable mission payouts and item costs and fuel prices and stuff like that. And from what we're seeing in the 4.0 PTU, I've been reading some reports and things are actually looking quite a bit better, at least when it comes to trading and cargo, prices of commodities, profits you can make, all that starting to actually come together. So we'll do plenty of testing on that in 4.0 when it comes out, but things are sounding pretty good.
Your extractor on your base is a source of resources until it's depleted, but then we need to make sure that there's also sinks for that resource in various gameplay loops, so that you don't just have inflation essentially of just a build-up of resources you can't do anything with.
Yeah, give us things to spend
be a very careful
resources
balancing
on.
act.
Yeah. In Torsten's answer, you mentioned something that I think maybe not a lot of folks have considered, this idea of having multiple or mobile bases.
There you go.
Obviously, folks
Jared
with
heard
the
you,
land
dude.
claims, and we'll talk about the land claims in a bit. You build your home. You might stake out your home. This is where I store my stuff and I decorate and all that stuff. But for industrial purposes, while you could certainly build that location up, then go out, gather stuff, bring it back, there is a gameplay style where you then instead create smaller mobile bases and move them around as you need to stuff like this.
Yeah. So you can still have your static home base with your like first extractor, but at some point your deposit just runs empty, and that like you can still leave the extractor there if you like the look of it, but then like if you still like the area and you don't want to move away,
You're like,
you can just
you see that extractor way over there in that place we don't go in the base anymore? That's my extractor. Really love the way it sits there. We don't use it, but it looks real nice, doesn't it?
like disassemble the extractor and then like decide to, okay, let's buy a new plot or let's move to a new plot and actually find another resource there. So yeah,
I think that leads into
if you
our
want
next
to stay.
I think that leads into our next question really well. Can we deconstruct buildings, and how is this done?
Yes, you can destruct. You can deconstruct.
That's one of the things they mentioned on Spectrum.
Your building. So there it is, like you would construct it. There's the construction AR mode. So you will make use of the drones. The drones then will disassemble the building, and if you have a freight elevator, they will automatically put the material that they gather from the disassembling process onto the freight elevator. You will get some of the material back that you invested in building, but we will because it's just it's a gameplay mechanic, but it also makes sense, right? In the disassembling process, you will not get one-to-one what you invested, there is a loss of material in there.
Every video game economy in the world has to have sinks, resource sinks.
Correct.
Now my worry is that, like IKEA furniture, once you
said sinks. They're talking about hygiene gameplay. Everybody run, get out.
That thing apart, does it go back together the same way? Or will it function worse? So we've talked a lot about base.
I guess actually the beauty of that is that it doesn't have to go back the same way. Once you take it apart, you can use those materials to make something else out of it. Once your extractor's dried up, make something else instead.
Fair enough.
Hey, that's
so let's
efficient.
talk about making stuff. We've done a lot of base building stuff here. Let's do some crafting. How does crafting change existing gathering methods such as mining and salvage?
That is a bigger topic because, so the TLDR, or the short version, is the mining that...
Girl, Torsten, you really think we want the TLDR? Come on. We want to sit here for 2 hours and listen to the ridiculous details and speculation, only to then get to the point where the feature is put into the game in 6 months and be like, wait, what?
We have right now will change more drastically again, and we will revisit like other gathering methods that we have. Like we have mining, we have salvage, and salvage will also get like a nice little treat. But let's start with mining. So on the mining side, we basically have to, because of the quality that we add to the minables that you will now find, we talked about that, and we considered that, okay, with the mining system right now where we have multiple resources per rock, that doesn't make any sense, because you might want to look for quality instead of finding like a specific resource. So we want to make it easier for the player to actually look for the specific resources.
Where are you going with this, Torsten?
They need for the crafting processes. So we will basically split up or we break out the randomness in the minables that we currently have, but have bespoke minables. So we will find the copper rock, the iron rock, the
titanium.
It's exactly what we were talking about. You now have added another variable to diversify more of what people can look for. Don't know how I feel about them splitting out impurities, if that's what he's saying.
Titanium rock. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
So the titanium rock, and because what you're looking for is a better quality there, right? So you will still look for like the titanium rock that basically fits, like has the perfect quality, but you don't have to look for a rock that contains titanium anymore.
Interesting.
And here we also want to emphasize, or we want to utilize the new planet tag that was also talked about at CitizenCon, where we want to make use of the biomes that we get through those, and then have like more meaningfully placed minerals on the planets. So you will find
that's pretty key.
Certain materials more like...
You guys will remember they talked about that, I think, around March of 2023 or so, when they started doing resource rebalances. They introduced iron. They specified which moons and planets you'd find certain resources on. This is them saying, okay, we've gotten down to the moon to planet scale. Now we want to also make sure that on those specific moons and planets, you'll find resources in certain places you can expect. And I think that's really good for people who are deep into mining, because this isn't just like you're good at mining, you know how to keep a laser on a dot for a certain amount of time. This is, you're good at mining, you can look at a planet and recognize the signs of that planet that tell you a resource that you need is nearby. And that's like intangible soft power in that profession that I like to see in this game.
Likely at a riverside or in a certain biome versus in other biomes. So we are really looking forward to get more control over that. So we are internally quite excited about that. And and additionally on the mining, so we now talked about like the minerals in themselves. We will also be more concrete on the minables that you find based on the profession that you picked. So if you are a ship miner, you will find ship mining deposits. If you are an FPS miner, you will only find FPS minables. And if you are a ground vehicle miner, you will find ground vehicle resources. And if you find...
Okay, but how is that done? I could see ship scanners only finding ship minables. Does that mean helmets won't be able to find rock minables? Like, no.
If you want to use your ground extraction tool in your base, you will find specific materials there. So what I'm saying here is that we don't have the shared minerals anymore that we currently have between FPS and ground vehicle mining. We will have the hard cuts. So everything you will find FPS in FPS mining, you will only find in FPS mining. Everything ground vehicle mining, only there. Only ship mining, only there. So this, we will have a clearer separation so that we can actually encourage the different gameplay loops a bit more effectively.
See, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. They might have their reasons for doing it, but like going back to this whole idea of immersive sim style of development, the idea you could combine enough handheld miners to crack a ground vehicle caliber rock is cool. I would love to be able to find a rock that's made for prospectors to be able to mine, but then bring like 20 rocks, 20 buggies with me and crack it together with all of them and collect it. It's like basically making the rocks that you're mining with different sized tools into different commodities practically. Yeah, they're received the same way in the store, but they're different. So does that mean like I can't mine? I guess it's already the fact that you can't mine Quantanium with smaller stuff. I really wish it was like that. You can do that now, but you will die. See, I like that. I don't like that they're going to take that away. Being able to scan for different types of minerals. Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird change. Because you want your exploration ship to still be able to find, like if you were doing rock mining per se, and you're flying around in your C1, and you're scanning for rocks for the rover in your back, what do you do? If this is needed, can you just no longer scan for rocks for your rover? If you're flying the rover around, you need to assign. How do you? Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird choice.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. That it'll mean that whichever kind of mining profession you choose to do, you'll have some valuable, unique materials that you can only get with that profession.
It's going to be a lot more different materials as well.
No. You don't have to do that through limiting the gameplay, though. Couldn't you just do that through making the minerals have certain characteristics? Like, couldn't you just say that certain types of minerals need a specific amount of heat to crack, and you can't possibly reach that amount of heat with a multi-tool? So it's encouraged to bring the right vehicle for that certain type of mineral. But if you have enough of the tools to do it the way you want to do it, you can.
Yeah, the amount of materials that we will have is
yeah.
And you can be sure.
Crazy.
And you'll be sure that between ISC and SCL, we'll definitely cover that in the future. I really like everything you just said, and it all sounds great. I like this idea of moving them to the biomes and making them biome specific and stuff, because while scanning will always be a part of the Star Citizen experience, and that will continue to evolve and get better. This idea that someone who is experienced and someone who is knowledgeable can just, fly over, do low flying, over the surface of a planet and use it to be like, okay, no, that's an area I'm looking for where titanium is, and I know titanium spawns in areas that look like this, and easily spot that and stuff like this. It's low flying can evolve to being surveying, manner of speaking. But for the people who are,
it also easier to find the minerals, right? Yeah. Right now you are little shout out to Red Monster, but you use like mining guides online, for example, to know exactly where you have to go to actually find what you are looking for. And with this, we want to make it more accessible, that it's logical where you find certain things, and then it's also clearer in the sense of, because it's just one thing that you will find there, right?
That change I like. I like the idea of finding stuff in a place where you expect it. Limiting the gameplay artificially is almost seems to always be detrimental to this game. We saw it with master modes from at least the way that people have reacted to it. We've seen it with hover mode, which has also been removed. Limiting the ability to mine a rock based on the size of the rock. Or sorry, limiting the ability to scan the rock. I understand mining the rock. I wish that could continue to change in the right direction, but it's already kind of like that now. I kind of get them going in that direction. I don't like it, but whatever. Scanning though is a really weird one. It can be annoying for newcomers. I understand that when you're trying to scan for rocks for your vehicle and you're only finding stuff for the prospector, but artificially putting a limit on it, in my opinion, is not the best way to figure that out. Best way to do it, in my opinion, would be to have different types of scanners, and you need to make sure you equip the right scanner to find the right rocks. That way, this is a gameplay choice. It's in the player's hands. You have the consequence of not paying attention to it, and you still have the ability to filter out the other rocks. This is like if they actually forced you to do multi-crew, okay? This is if they made you walk onto a multi-crew ship and said, you can't turn this ship on unless there are 3 people on the ship with you. It's probably not exactly the same, but this is how it feels to me. Like they're taking a type of gameplay and they're putting it behind a wall and they're saying this isn't possible because that's the way it is, rather than giving you the chances to go around that wall. And for some things they have to make that decision. This isn't where I thought they would make one of those decisions. I hope when this comes out, we can do some testing, we can give them some feedback, and they reconsider it.
So hopefully that, or like our goal is to make it more accessible, and not that like accessible in the sense of people that are new to the game are also more attracted to the gameplay loop, but we still want to keep the expert gameplay to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Easy to learn, difficult
it.
to master.
Yeah, yes. There's the thing that I mentioned at the beginning, that Salvage will get also a little revisit, and something that I'm really happy and excited to tell you is we will have some time to revisit it, and what we will do there is, I think, something that a lot of people already expected or for the initial release, and that is in regards to the construction material that you actually get from munching from
structural salvage.
From structural salvage. Thank you. That basically the ships are made out of certain components, and once you basically gather them through that, you will have those materials, and then there will be processes to separate them, but this is something that is still being decided of what way we want to go down there.
Oh boy.
No,
Yeah.
Don't say still being decided. Oh God. Oh please. Oh. That makes it sound like they haven't figured out how refining is working, which is going to pain my soul if it's the case.
And then there will be processes to separate them, but this is something...
Because this all sounds good, right? This is basically refining he's talking about. He's talking about salvaging a ship, getting all of the materials, and then you would have to go through the refining process to separate those materials to sell them or transfer them or whatever it is. Because we're not just going to stick to RMC and CNC. But then he says...
that is still being decided of what way we want to go down there.
I really hope those are like late stage decisions, because we were reading about refining ships and refining gameplay on the monthly report. Oh man, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Oh, it really freaking hurt if refining wasn't in a good place design wise by now. That'd be a huge bummer.
No,
Yeah, the thing I really like about this is that it ties it into the dismantle side of crafting, that if you dismantle something, you'll get back some of what it's made of. Same thing with salvage. Your ship just kind of becomes a portable dismantling fabricator thing.
No, that's very cool, and you're right. That is something that's been asked for some time. This idea that if I'm looking for, if I'm trying to craft my own spacecraft, and I need hulls, I need materials, for the hull, I can go and do hull scraping and gather some of the materials that I need for that. It's thematically similar.
Yeah, but as an additional note, there will be some materials that you won't get back. So like in the crafting process, right? So you will use some materials in the crafting process that are, like, let's say, volatile or in some way exclusive. So if you would then structural salvage your recently crafted vehicle, you might get some of the material not back at all. Like if, for example, bad example, but for an example, if
good way to stop fraud,
you used antimatter in the crafting process, you won't get that back. You will just get back aluminum or copper and stuff like that. But those exclusive materials you won't get back in the reverse process of crafting.
Gotcha. I'm just happy I got you to say munching again. While we're still in crafting here, will there be limited use blueprints?
Oh.
Yes. In short, yes. We're going to be supporting both finite use blueprints. So, like, you get it, you can only use it N times.
That's nice.
And then also blueprints that have a cooldown in between uses, so you can only use it, periodically.
Huh.
It's just to give us some extra ways to balance and limit certain things, but we're not.
But if you get that Centurion sub, you get 50% off your cooldown. I'm sorry. That's cool though. I like limited use blueprints. Give some extra value to them.
Examples of that at this point.
Yeah. I was there on a Hazy server in Star Wars Galaxies when it launched, cornering the market on cracked dragon pearls and just ripping out so many items, so many weapons and stuff, so many armors to corner the market before anybody else could catch up. So it's nice to know that there are going to be limits on some of the more
that's cool,
interesting things. Can you trade blueprints?
Yes and no. So we mentioned at SitCon that the blueprints are awarded to your character, essentially, to your character's virtual blueprint library. So if you get directly credited a blueprint from a mission or a reputation reward or something, then it's bound to your character. You can't trade it. But there will be some gameplay where you find blueprints on a data pad, and that data pad can be traded before you read the data off it.
Okay.
Once it's been downloaded.
So that is the case. It's a physicalized object that you can save digitally, but you can basically find them, not claim them, and give them or trade them to somebody else. So blueprints are going to be super valuable points of loot, which is awesome. If you can trade blueprints, then that gives exploration people an entirely new thing to need to look for their, like, you could be the top exploration person who gets the absolute most rare blueprints, and that's your thing, which is cool. I'm really glad to hear them verify that.
Though it's gone. It's a one-time download essentially. So if you've already found this blueprint and you find another blueprint of it in a loot crate somewhere, you can give it to your friend. But once they've downloaded it, the data pad is dead.
Okay. And eventually, when we have a more robust trading system, I can see that being a hot commodity on whatever our version of an auction house will be.
That and noodles.
Can we use stolen materials to craft?
Hope so.
Absolutely. The crafter doesn't care about the legality of anything. I mean, heck, you can probably steal an item, dismantle it into parts, and make...
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about, as an org, the difference between somebody who's playing in our org and finds a blueprint and keeps it for themselves versus if you're running on like an org mission. And we would prefer that you turn that blueprint into our dedicated crafters for the org because they requisition the best materials and have all the research and stuff like that. That'll be interesting. It's going to be are there going to be org tools for that, or will we have to figure that out? There's so many details here being shared.
Make a whole new thing out of it. So
Seems like a good way to get rid of the evidence.
Yeah, actually, that is the recommended.
In fact, I want to listen to that again real quick.
Trading system, I can see that being a hot commodity on whatever our version of an auction house will be. Can we use stolen materials to craft?
Absolutely. The crafter doesn't care about the legality of anything. I mean, heck, you can probably steal an item, dismantle it into parts, and make a whole new thing out of it. So,
seems like a good way to get rid of the evidence.
Yeah, actually, that is the recommended loop if you steal an item, right? So because items have an ownership associated to them, and either you somehow get rid of the ownership marking and replace it, or you go the easy way and just disassemble it and craft the item yourself, because you don't have to hunt down the materials, or not as much materials, because again, not the 1-to-1 ratio if you disassemble.
Okay.
But I do like the idea of nicking someone's entire spaceship and deconstructing it and then making some other ship out of it.
Yeah. Luke, we'll go back to base building for a bit. How customizable will these things be in terms of materials, colors, shapes?
Yeah, like we discussed earlier, we really want to make sure that players are able to kind of make the base their own, and to also use the base for whatever new systems or the existing systems that we have out there and gameplay loops, right?
Okay, sorry. So just going back on that. Basically, they described a salvage yard, right? Your ability to steal ships. Yeah, chop shops. Steal ships, dismantle them, sell the parts, or craft out of them. That's a cool bit of freedom. I love that. More of this. Yes.
Example, a hunter's lodge, you might want to tint it in a specific way with the buildings and so on, so that it blends nicely into the environment, so that it doesn't stand out or get any attention of other bypassers flying by. Where if you're building more of a trading hub, we want you to be able to kind of again, tint the buildings, maybe put logos on the sides, and really kind of advertise like, oh, this is my location, come here, trade, and really have different...
You sell 50% off? I'll have to ask Scooter.
ways of integrated. We have a lot of beautiful planets that have very different biomes and colors and structures, and we just want to make sure that we are providing a nice palette of different tints and customizables to kind of make it fit within every biome, every planet where you want to build your base. Something that we showed in base building as well, that a lot of people caught up on, is that a majority or a large portion of the buildings will also be able to be connected one another. So we're looking at we have generic buildings, and then the player can decide what they want to do within that building or how they want to tint it, and then those can be connected to corridors and other buildings and linked together, or to a hangar, and you can build your own little infrastructure with that. I think it's really we're really excited to kind of see what players are going to do with those options.
And I know this first version of base building we're talking about uses what we refer to as the high-tech aesthetic. This next question is looking way out, but we'll ask it. Will there be different styles of structure in the future? They give examples like a shanty town or even alien-influenced buildings.
Good question. Yeah. Before we get into that, I'll show you guys what other options they already have presented us. These are not things that they said would work for base building, but these are the architectural styles that they wanted to use for the game overall. I think 5 or 6 of them, 6 of them, 7 of them. And we've already seen utilitarian over here. We've gone over this on the channel before several times. We've already seen utilitarian. We've had colonialism. Clearly high tech is what kind of the base building is looking like right now. The next thing we'll probably see in game is Henoism, which is coming in with the Castra system. So it'll be interesting to hear, these are the styles of buildings and stuff in the game, but does it expand over to base building?
Yeah, so there's indeed, with the introduction of base building, there's a lot of possibilities out there for us. For now, we're very focused on establishing this high-tech visual very well. We have a specific set in mind in which we want to release with. After that, like we've always already, or Declan discussed in his presentation in CitizenCon and already hinted at, is that there is more functionality to come that we also want to look at, like for example, branching and trading and so on. And after that, it's really going to be a question about what kind of, do we want to expand the current high-tech set with new functionality, or do we want to start building a new set with a new aesthetic? But that is something that will, we first want to see how players are going to react to the initial set, and then from there we'll make informed decisions based on the players' reactions.
Love to hear it. We mentioned the mag locking at CitizenCon and earlier today, so I want to get to this. I've seen a lot of questions, and you've got one here. How will we be able to decorate our homes in a way that there isn't physics jank just all over the place?
When will the game work?
Yeah, that's I understand where the question comes from. So one of the options that we will have with decorative ER, the mode in which you get to decorate your place, is that you'll be able to kind of mag lock your furniture into place, and therefore only you or certain people with the right credentials are allowed to move the position of that object. In the future, there will be ways to disable the mag lock, I believe, but I'll have to look at Declan about this.
Hacking?
Depend on security and
Yeah, out in the future. That's again, for the initial release, we're still focusing on just letting you build your bases, and then in a future patch, we will start to really go into like PvP, and then the mech locking discussion will definitely be addressed there as well. For now, we just want to make sure that people get to create their bases, and that they have a possibility to just have a little bit of a safeguard with the beautiful things that they've collected over the universe and how they want to put them down. And one of the IDs that we were also playing with, and we'll hope that maybe some players are daring enough to try it out, is perhaps have a ship trading base, and where you have your specific showroom ships there or something. You need to be
imagine
there.
Just like, oh my. You are the penultimate, known across the globe as manufacturing the best snub ships in the whole game. Like, nobody even bothers getting snub ships, because if you can get that tier 5 snub ship from so-and-so, they've got the materials for it. They've got a shop in the perfect place in Terra that's easy to get to. Like, I love the idea of variability from crafting, and then the mechanics that allow you to sell it, to trade it, to use it, to refine it and craft it and do things with it that other players can do. That whole segment of the game to me is so freaking cool. Just like, please confirm to me that refining is at least somewhat in a place that's really going to weigh on me. I thought refining would be something that they might actually spring on us in the next year or so as relatively far along. Penultimate, who wants to be second best? You really want to be best? You always got a target on your back if you're the best, you know?
They're not getting nicked, I guess. Or, again, stuff for the future as well.
Gotcha.
I'm sure they'll also maglock boxes together to make the ugliest structures that we've ever seen before, so we can look forward to that.
Declan, don't give them any ideas. We made beautiful art for it. No.
You don't need to give people ideas. I already know what the first base build is going to look like.
Wait, what did he say?
So we can look forward to boxes together.
Again, stuff for the future as well.
Gotcha.
I'm sure they'll also maglock boxes together to make the ugliest structures that we've ever seen before. So
Dude, I want to be able to maglock big boxes together right now. How many times are you guys trying to organize cargo in a place that's not a cargo grid, and you just wish that the boxes would snap together just to make it simple? I do hope that they allow us to do that, have some sort of system that does that in the field.
we can look forward to
Declan, don't give them any ideas. We made
It's
beautiful
too late.
art.
We got the ideas, baby.
Need to
Too
give
late.
people ideas. I already know what the first base build is going to look like, and I can't say it.
I am
It's a penis.
most magnificent base ever built. I have high trust in the community.
And in case anybody's new to video games, the acronym is called TTP. and we'll see how long that is.
Time to penis?
It's my last show of the year, right? Yeah, it is.
Is that time to penis? I hope that's not what it stands for.
Can you work together to create a base? Can you work together to create a base, or can you charge a fee for using a base's services?
Yes.
It's like I've stopped myself physically. I've stopped myself in my head from making at least 5 different jokes about time to penis.
Again,
I'm super mature.
Make it very dynamic and open so that different bases can cater to different players and different player experiences. So you'll be able to build small bases and maybe even slightly larger bases, but it might take a while by yourself. And then, of course, you can just team.
What? You're not forcing us to multiplayer for this? I'm sorry, I gotta stop.
Up, and you can, together with a friend, really quickly build a smaller base, or really start to try to literally take things to the moon in the future. But you'll be able to build larger structures. Will be recommended to do that in groups.
I think I saw some people discussing whether they would be able to sell services on their base, though.
They will.
I think that'll be pretty cool that you can build up some infrastructure and have people pay to use it.
What? Like a refueling depot? See, I hope they answer the question of how this ties into the Star Sim with the economy and everything, because that's a lot.
Okay, when you say sell services, my mind went to a different place. What are you talking about?
TTP, Jared, come on. We sell the TTP service.
Talking about, I've built some really high-tier crafting machines, and I'm just going to let people come to my base and craft stuff with the best machines.
Yeah, that's definitely what I was thinking.
Price.
It's definitely.
What were you thinking?
I'm thinking. Let's move to the next question.
I'm just very excited to just like. I used to be a little bit of a miner myself.
You want TTP on a mug now, Mrs. Tomato? Let's make it happen. I'm sure there are plenty of those, to be honest.
I can't wait for people just to kind of figure out, like, oh, I got my little base here. I'm mining my own resources, and now I'm going to start shipping it to like Declan's base, his base is all about refining, for an example. And I go and I use his services there, and I get my valuables refined, and then I'll sell it at Jacob, who is building his base. And then over the weeks and months that I'm playing my loop and doing my adventures, I can actually see Jacob's base expanding, and I can see how my involvement has a tangible impact in the universe.
I wonder if they're going to give us internal tools to monitor trades like that, or will you have to manually verify? Like, could we possibly set up a mission where the game can track that I am supposed to be sending so-and-so amount of cargo to so-and-so location over this amount of time? That'd be an incredibly useful tool. I mean, that could be a complete game changer, right? That's the difference between people having to keep on top of all of the things they're doing versus the game tracking it and keeping you on task. Yeah, trade beacon, or whatever the next version of that is. A mission that says, if 50 SCU of so-and-so makes it to this base every day, or on this day, when that happens, you get paid this amount. The owner of that base doesn't have to check in with their friend every single time they make a shipment and pay them manually. They could just have something set and get notified every time it triggers. I think that kind of thing would really help with letting people take part in a multiplayer game in a multiplayer fashion without having to interact with other people. Because now you have people who want to play this kind of single player environment where they're just a lonely trader that's shipping back and forth between 2-player bases, but maybe they don't want to have to talk and work with those people who own the player bases. They just want to ship the goods. I think this would be the best way for CIG to allow for the game to act as a multiplayer environment without forcing people to do multiplayer to take part in most of the gameplay. That I can get on board with you with. They should be, allowing that kind of thing. But I don't think they've talked specifically about that yet, besides Nick, who's part of the economy team in August, talked about player-made missions. So we could see it kind of going in that direction. Don't know how far it'll go though.
Very
You've
cool.
also made some money, which is quite
trespass,
good.
bypass.
True.
And maybe
Basically just different permissions on your base.
and meet new people by selling them stuff.
Next question. Can you spawn in your base or group bed log? Group bed log. Now we're back to the services I was thinking about.
Yeah. Yes. But so you need the
It's respawning. Bye-bye. Have fun making a video about this for next week. All about log-offs and log-ons.
you need the proper building for that. So
Whoa.
right now
Wait. Wait, what? What did he say?
you need the
This is for respawning, right?
Now we're back to the services I was thinking about.
yeah. Yes. But
Or group bed log. Group bed log.
Group bedlog.
Now we're back to the services I was thinking about.
God, Jared. Do you need a specific building? What?
Next question. Can you spawn in your base or group bed log? Group bed log. Now we're back to
Dude, what?
but so
I'm going to listen to this whole answer.
So you need the proper building for that. So right now the intention is that if you have a med bed or if you have an hospital area in your base, you can use the imprint system there. And
Oh, it's for
use this
respawning.
as
Okay.
your gathering point as the group.
Okay.
Okay.
Declan.
That's
Hello.
not logging. That's not bed logging. That's respawning.
Sit up. Okay. Yeah. Bases in caves or asteroids.
Wait. No, they missed a really crucial detail there. They're talking about spawning, not logging. The idea of logging, at least right now, as of the last we heard, can happen anywhere. Earlier this year, I keep thinking last year because 2024 took so fucking long. Earlier this year, one of the higher ups of the company came out and said bed logging is no longer required. We are going to change it so that you can log in and out anywhere you want. So, like, when he asks about bed logging here, they're missing a real important answer.
Or group bed log.
He said group bed log.
The intention is that if you have a med bed or if you have an hospital area in your base, you can use the imprint system there.
But he's talking about
use
spawning.
this as your gathering point as the group.
Dang it.
Declan.
You might have been Invictus.
Hello.
Sit up. Okay. Yeah. Bases in caves or asteroids.
I would like to apologise to all the goblins out there, but it's not on the roadmap right now.
Thank you so much for saying that. We need that every once in a while. You just really need a whole no now and then.
Had to get to at least one question where it wasn't something we were doing. Let's see. Can we start a build using our drones from something like the Starlancer, then leave?
Yeah, again, a yes answer. Yes, you can. So once you set the building in motion, you can go on, carry on, log off, and the drone will basically do its job, and while you're offline. And if the build finishes, the drone will then try to get back to its host or its mothership. And if the mothership or the host is not around anymore, it will self-destruct. And you need to get a new drone afterwards, but you will get a replacement by, if you used your Starlancer, for example, by simply repairing the Starlancer, and then you get it replaced by this process.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question here.
I also hope he clarifies something.
Because I'm thinking about this. Obviously, either with the time it takes to build a base is not going to be instantaneous, and we're not going to talk about the time now. That'll be a thing that's determined over play testing and further development and stuff. But in that time, with your drones swirling around or whatever, what happens when people try to park their Idris right where you're trying to build a base. Like you've started, it was a flat parcel of land. You've started the process. It was yours. And then you started it. You've set your drones, like you said, you've logged out. And 5 minutes after you log out, somebody parks their Idris there.
So there is still, in short, that's not going to be possible because there's, I think we mentioned it briefly in the sitcom presentation that it's a physicalized hologram, that the intended place of a building will be physically barriered. I don't know if you want to call it a force field or something, but just, you can't park there because it's under construction.
Gotcha.
Yeah, correct.
That's cool. I think I missed.
Okay, the question I was wondering, which I feel like is the question that they were actually asking here, is can you leave a building mid-construction and then come back to it later? Because if that's the case, then that sounds like the building being constructed is not tied to the drone, it's tied to its own progress, which would mean you can start and stop construction with different drones, which could possibly mean you could add drones onto a construction project to make it happen faster. Which I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I doubt they would do, because that would mean that somebody could just have like 20 drones to quickly do a building, and that'd be hard for them to balance. So maybe, I guess there could be a max drone limit on a per building basis, but he didn't really answer that question. He more answered the idea of can you be gone while your drone is building, as opposed to can your drone be joined by others.
Drones from something like the Starlancer, then leave. Our drones from something, let's see, can we start a build using our drones from something like the Starlancer, then leave?
Oh, I guess that is what they were asking. If you could just leave it alone.
Again?
Yeah, so he did answer that. I was wondering if you'd be able to add more drones in. Take that drone away and start it again from some other way, but that's not what they were asking.
You've set your drones, like you said, you've logged out, and 5 minutes after you log missed that. Let's go all the way to the end here. Where can space stations be built? And will there be smaller scale stations for smaller groups?
So there isn't plans at the moment for small scale space stations, and there will be some limitations on where you can build a space station, but you're not limited to just in orbit around a planet. You can build it way out in the depths of space, and
one drone per build. Okay. Wonder if that drone can come back, or if once you cancel that build, it's done.
Have it well hidden for whatever you want to hide it for.
Yeah.
So largely anywhere, but there will be limitations.
Yeah, I want to clarify. When he says that there are no plans for a smaller scale station, he's talking about the physicality of it right now. It's like we're building towards our first physical space stations, and those are the ones we're building to. As far as how many people it will take to build that one size space station and expand and stuff, that is also a thing. We have ideas, we have plans, we have intentions right now, but these are things that will continue to evolve as we get closer to the actual implementation of this feature. It's one of those things where, and if you've watched Star Citizen Live, ISC, listened to any of these developer interviews for any amount of time, this is one of the only constants besides change, and that's that we have to remain open to better ideas, more ideas, different discoveries about what the tech will allow us and stuff like this. What's actually fun? We may have this idea that it takes this much, then we find out, well, this is actually where it's fun and stuff. So
it's a complicated way of saying things are always changing.
As far when you say that there's no plans for a smaller space station, that is a physicality thing and not a comment on the amount of people necessary to build one. That is something that's going to be developed through a whole bunch of testing with you guys and our guys.
Nope, missed all of that. Jared just told us that we need 20 people to build a space station. So, sorry, confirmed.
So, let's move on. If you pledge for a ship, will you receive a blueprint to craft it?
If you buy a car from the dealer, can you make more? No, you cannot. Pledging a ship does not give you the blueprint.
That would be sick.
To craft it, you got to earn that like everybody else. But it gives you the ship, and you can use the ship. Like I said at SCL,
I think Rykop, I believe I'm agree with you. Star Citizen 1.0 does not by any means sound like the in-depth, super heavily featured Star Citizen people want. Not gonna lie, the Star Citizen 1.0 sounds like a good game. It sounds like a fully featured game that will be fun to play and worth. I can't say it's worth the time it took because that's insane and I don't even know. But it does sound like there are going to be very substantial features, polish, and expanded content that's going to come after Star Citizen 1.0. And I guess they're going to have to keep it relevant. You can't just leave a game. Games are only popular as long as they keep getting new content, and they're going to want to keep updating Star Citizen. So I think that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of different things that'll be going into the game after 1.0. Oh, that's hyperbolic, Blam. I mean, there's a lot of really good details they've talked about for 1.0. Like putting crafting aside, while that is, I agree, a huge part of it, it seems. Things like the missions, the guilds, the actual idea of time sinks, those the systems that are going to be involved, along with how the factions function with those systems, I think those are really important parts. What they didn't talk about, though, and I agree on this, is the more advanced versions of mining, salvage, refining, stuff like that, which sucks. But yeah, I think there's plenty more to come after 1.0 too.
Ship, and you can use the ship. Like I said at SitCon, though, once you've got a ship, however you got it, whether you pledged for it or got it in game or nicked it or something, you will be able to upgrade it. So even though you can't craft directly, make a brand new high tier ship, you can upgrade the one that you pledged for in-game materials.
What I liked about this, sorry to pause so much, but what I liked about this goes back to what they said during CitizenCon, where you can actually steal ships, and there is going to be a mechanic behind stealing those ships and getting the tags wiped, making sure they get cleaned off so that they're no longer registered as stolen. And the idea that maybe you could steal a ship, you could plot a whole thing, steal a ship, actually get it to a place where it's wiped. Like, imagine the actual possibility of being a brand new player to this game, figuring something out in the first 2 weeks and going and stealing somebody's carrack and being able to get that cleaned out and updated and insured, and it's yours. And you didn't have to work for months on end to afford that. You literally just figured out how to go through the work to steal it and make it your own. And then, upgrading it, as he's talking about here, chopping it and selling the parts, whatever it might be. That's insane to me that's going to be a possible game loop in this, and might make me try a little bit of piracy myself. But also, that means we're going to have to take our ships a lot more seriously, if that's a possibility.
And research and all that, but yeah, you'll be able to do that to ensure your vehicle has the best stats that you want for it.
Okay. And you just butted up against one of the other big questions that a lot of folks had after that presentation. WTF, the upgrade system. How does this work? What are tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is it the same thing for every ship? Is it different for every ship? Is it customizable, like I seem to think you just hinted at there? How are we expecting this tier system to work? Keeping in mind, there's still lots of development between now and its implementation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. But I'll talk about the current plans. So, first of all, there's different kinds of blueprint. And most of them will be upgradable through research. Different kinds of blueprint will get different benefits from researching them. So like a refining blueprint will get more efficient. So you get a better yield of refined goods for raw input. Or like a repair blueprint might be able to repair a little bit more effectively, stuff like that.
Wait, what is a refining and a repair blueprint? What does he mean by that? Like a blueprint for a machine that does those things?
And benefits from researching them. So like a refining blueprint.
Oh, he's saying doing that kind of research, refining or repair-based research?
Will get more efficient. So you get a better yield of refining.
Okay, so he's talking about blueprints as the upgrades onto something that does refining. is what I'm getting.
Find goods for raw input, or like a repair blueprint might be able to repair a little bit more effectively, stuff like that. But the one that everyone's probably asking about is the creation blueprint, which lets you make new stuff.
Okay.
And
interesting. So you'll have to research a blueprint and then apply that blueprint to an item to upgrade it, as opposed to researching the upgrade into the item. Is that what he's saying?
a higher tier one of those will let you craft the higher tier of the relevant item. So let's say you've already got the tier 1 blueprint for a gun and it has stats like fire rate and recoil. You'll be able to see on the crafting UI the stat range for those stat types, and the exact value that you get when you actually make the gun will be dependent on the quality of the resources that you put in. When you upgrade the blueprint to tier 2, you'll see the tier 2 version of the gun, and those stat ranges will be shifted. So it'll have a higher top end and a higher low end as well. It'll be on average better, but the actual number that you get is still dependent on the quality of the materials you put in.
Okay. So the tier of the thing that you make defines the range of its statistics. The quality of the materials you use to make that thing define the actual number. All I can think of, honestly, here is how this relates to ship speed, because that seems like the most important value that's affected by upgrades now. It's going to be really interesting to see how much they allow us to affect our ship speeds.
Of course, the higher tier blueprints also need you to bring more advanced materials to them. And related to that is that these blueprints have...
I think we'll be able to refine materials to improve their quality, probably. You just get less materials.
Aspects, we call them. It's kind of like parts of the product, so like the barrel of a gun or the grip of the gun or something like that, which will influence different stats. Parts of the product, so aspects. Related to that is that these blueprints have aspects, we call them. It's kind of like parts of the product, so like the barrel of a gun or the grip of the gun or something like that, which will influence different stats of the item. So if you put materials into the grip part of the gun, the quality of those materials might impact the recoil, but it's not going to impact the rate of fire.
We were looking for that. That's important. I want that same thing to happen when it comes to research and upgrades. Allowing the specific part of the gun that you're focusing on to make the difference in how the gun performs I would have been really disappointed if that wasn't part of this.
This might impact the recoil, but it's not going to impact the rate of fire. And this becomes especially interesting for the very highest tier of creation blueprints, because then you'll get a choice of what materials to put into certain aspects, and based on the choice you make, it will influence different stats. So you might be able to choose between improving the recoil or the reload speed, depending on which material you put in.
So let's go back to the other video we had. Gives a little bit of insight into like the stats and stuff. So you can see there's integrity, wear resistance, misfire chance, fire rate, all that stuff. And what he's saying here is when you're crafting, you might have, here we go. You got frame, wiring, and condenser here. And basically they can come up with different parts that are represented by different materials. And so he's trying to say, like, if you've got the ability to put high-level wiring materials in here, higher-level condenser materials in here, let's say you've got, a high-level capacitor as well, defined by a certain type of material. It sounds like he's saying you'll have to choose between two different components to focus on, but essentially you'll be able to choose where you put your high-level materials into each of the parts, and that's what would improve improve the gun. So like this one is getting an improvement in fire rate because maybe they put a good material into the frame as opposed to the condenser, or vice versa. And that sounds like it's giving people a lot of opportunities to get a little more specific with their crafting. It gives weapons more variability when we find them and loot them. There's a lot more types of weapons and combinations of weapons and stats we can find that make them mean more when we find them, which is good. I think it's a nice balance of allowing players to make a difference to this kind of stuff and also making sure that it lives in a system that they can control.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then I guess the only other kind of blueprint that's...
Yeah, as long as it's not RNG. Like, that's the thing. It's got to be focused on the parts of the weapon we're upgrading and very logically translated from the materials we're using, not just like some random stat boosts.
Interesting for upgrade is the upgrade blueprint itself, because research and upgrade blueprints are not quite the same thing. But if you use an upgrade blueprint to increase the tier of an existing item, none of the existing stats or materials on that item matter anymore. It's just the new materials that you put in for the upgrade will affect the stats.
So you're always wiping over. You're starting over at a different level every time you update to a new tier.
And
that means that you have to go through more resources to get... there's a system that's kind of like this. I guess it's kind of like New Game Plus. We used to Prestige with Call of Duty, where you would work your way up to the top level of Call of Duty level, and you get all that skill and all that experience and maybe a couple skins and stuff that you keep over, but then you make the decision at some point to Prestige, and it takes you down to a baseline in which you're recognized as being higher level, but technically you're still starting over. So higher baseline, lower variables, and it feels like the same thing for this sort of weapon. You work it, you customize it, you make it as good as it possibly can be in that one tier that you're in, and you've got the best tier 3 level of that weapon, and then you decide, okay, it's time to go up to tier 4. Taking a step back, but ultimately you'll be able to get higher as you work through your way with that gun. Keep it maintained, keep it upgrading, keep good hold of it. I like that. I think that means that maybe you'll have certain guns and certain items that have like history to them, that you've put in a lot of effort to make sure those are the ones that you've always carried, and you've got stronger feelings about them. That's cool.
The important reason for this is so that whether you craft an item straight at tier 3 or craft it at tier 1 and then upgrade to tier 2 and then upgrade to tier 3, the resulting item will be the same if you use the same materials.
So you can skip a step if you need, if you have the blueprint and
if you have the creation blueprint, you can skip, and you skip straight to whatever.
As long as somebody kills you and takes your gun, yeah. It's the joy of it.
Only exists if you already have the item, and you don't want to spend all of the resources to make a whole another copy of it. You just want to spend the smaller amount of resources necessary to turn it into the higher tier 1.
And that upgrade blueprint, I assume one of the ingredients is the original item.
Yes.
Okay, and so you were speaking. You're speaking primarily of guns and items, but this system, one would assume, is also applicable to the ships as well.
Yep, absolutely.
And not only ships, also ship components.
That's I don't know how they're gonna carry it out, how it's gonna work, but it does sound like an exciting part of the game to me.
Something that we really want to make sure is that we don't want you to go through the process of, because you crafted your tier 1 item, you then have to disassemble it to just craft a tier 2 item, right? So that is like nonsense. So we really want to enable players to have their item and then use the upgrade to actually still have the item, but then the better version of that.
Yeah, it's just a recipe that includes the original item as part of it.
So extrapolating this out here, if you take something like an Aurora, let's start just with a base level here, and you have now upgraded the hull to stage 5 or tier 5, where you've now use specific materials to customize specific elements and stats of that hull. And then you've done the same with the weapons, and you've customized the weapons up to tier 5 with certain materials to benefit certain things. And you've done the same thing with the components to custom up to tier 5 to customize certain attributes. You can have an Aurora that is dramatically different than David's Aurora or Pete's Aurora.
No, at that point it just becomes a Scorpius
or something. It's
absolutely.
This is where we start to see the differential between not just individual ship models, but within the ship model itself. And when some decisions are made that affect the baseline of a ship, the one that folks can buy in Astro Armada or whatnot, and so those decisions don't happen in a vacuum. They have to be accounted for. Also, the potential upgrade path that is coming with crafting and stuff like this. And if a ship is in a certain way where you're like, well, I'm not really a fan of it in its base configuration, but through time and effort on the player's behalf, maybe you can take a ship that you weren't totally happy with and now make it to something that becomes your daily driver.
The amount of balance. So much balance is going to be needed for this.
Yeah, this calls back to the heavy balancing effort that Torsten was talking about.
So I'm thinking, this is crazy.
Earlier, that one of the big challenges is going to be very carefully balancing all of the different possibilities that you'll have access to with crafting. Because instead of just one ship has these values for these thrusters, the ship hull can change, and the thrusters can change, multiple tiers of them, quality scaling, lots of potential for variation. So we will be paying very close attention to this.
You're just creating a whole lot of work for Rich Towler and his team, aren't you?
Yes. Sorry, guys.
He's going to bust through the wall like the Kool-Aid man here in a minute. All right, we've got a little bit more time. Let's go back to some base building here. How well will bases?
Heck yeah, balance
blend?
is going to have to be a very long-term, ongoing thing. And honestly, people are going to be unhappy. There's going to be things that are broken or meta or get nerfed. At you guys see how much people lose it right now when it comes to them changing ships. I mean, the changes that they're making now aren't even incorporating most of these things. Imagine how much they're going to have to change ships in between now and when this is all reality. Look at how much we go through when these ships change. I think the number one thing they're going to need to focus on over the next couple of years is their communication. They've really, really got to be good about explaining to people why they're making the changes that they're making, because they're probably going to have to make a lot of them. And people get pissed if they don't understand why.
Into the surrounding environment. I think longtime players can remember that the very first outposts that ever appeared in 3.0 were almost always up on stilts.
Yeah, they better have a balanced team, right? Or a couple.
How well will our stuff blend in with the terrain?
Yeah, so you'll be able to kind of, again, with the tinting, you'll be able to kind of pick certain tint palettes that work better with the biomes that they are in located. You can also put buildings around trees and stuff. If you put the building on top of the trees, it will get rid of the trees, but with the nice precision placement mode through the construction ER mode, you'll be able to find a nice position and to kind of get some trees to maybe cover a little bit of your building as well. We'll see how that goes. Because we also have the construction drones that need to fly in and out, so we'll have to we're taking those things in account, but you'll be able to kind of blend it in pretty well if you want. And additionally, we'll have some buildings that actually will be able to kind of reduce the signature of your base as well, to kind of further kind of hide your base if you want to.
Nice.
Or in the other way, really make it stand out in the base in the environment. But yes, the idea is that we will have different tint palettes that fit with the different biomes that can be found on the planets.
Cool.
One
reason for change is irrelevant. I would point towards the bottom line. It's always relevant if it can decide how much money you make, and their communication absolutely decides how much money they make. Community is going to have to make a major shift as well. People simply refuse to accept change. I agree with you there. Some people have a real difficult time accepting that this game might change as we get closer. I understand things we don't want to change will change, and that's very frustrating, especially things they didn't say might change. We've seen it very much here while we're sitting here watching this. I've had a couple moments where I'm like, yeah, that's changing. That's not fun. But, I'm going to accept what needs to be done for this game to be made. I'm going to lament the things that I wish had been done and be annoyed that they're not. It's not. This game isn't exactly how I wanted it to be, or it doesn't match exactly what they've said. I've accepted that there are going to be things that change over time, and I think that certainly can help not be so intense when things happen.
I assume there has to be some level of terrain manipulation, though. Is that entirely automated by the system, or will any of that be in player control?
Yeah, so the idea is that we don't want to fully allow the players to customize the terrain to their liking, because that would take away from the value of scouting for a good location. So there will be buildings that will do a very light terrain manipulation, just to make sure that like the staircases work and so on. But the majority, the best solution that we'll provide is the use of foundation tiles, the big concrete slabs that people get to place down, and then on those they'll be able to kind of put their buildings down. And those will deform the terrain, so if you have a plot of land that is not particularly flat for you to build connectable buildings, then the idea is that you would put down a foundation first, and then from there on you'll be able to connect your buildings on top of there.
We're going to all try and see how far out over the water we can build foundation tiles. Artificial islands.
We can squeeze a couple more in before we're done here. How will player trading at bases work?
All right, I suppose there's two ways to look at this. You've got your seller and the buyer. If we look at the seller, then you've either acquired your items or you've crafted them and you want to put them up for sale. You can do that by placing them in a freight elevator, listing them on a connected terminal, or make a physical shop. And then there'll be a mobiGlas app where you can say, hey, I have T3 bombs for sale. Everyone come and grab them before they're gone. And then as the buyer, you browse the advertisements on this new trading app, go to the base and purchase them. Or if there is a very particular item that you want, you can put in a buy order and you'll say, I want this item, this many of them, these stats, deliver it to this location. Obviously that'll cost more because someone has to accept that and then do the delivery.
That's what we were talking about earlier.
But it means that you get a very particular item that you want.
Whoa, dude. See, they just randomly whip out details like you'll be able to do a buy order, which, we kind of assumed you'd be able to do, but hearing it confirmed, that's what we were talking about. Owning a base and telling another base, I want this many things to be sent to this base, do it. Now, the only other detail we need to hear from that is that the person who gets that buy order can outsource the actual job. At that point, we will be able to fully have requisition calls, buy orders, economies between orgs with regular trade routes. That could be crazy. So cool to hear that they have that functionality. That's at least part of the step to a really good future for this kind of stuff. But ultimately, player trading is also good. I like the idea that they're working on player trading. They have a good idea for it. I hope that they also have a way for us to trade things hand to hand. So you can select something in your inventory and basically click a button that says trade with player, and then another person who's standing in front of you can just grab it from you, so that we don't have to put stuff down on the ground every time we want to trade something.
The delivery, but it means that you get a very particular item that you want.
Okay, so it sounds like base build, one of the major components of base building will be this next major step forward in player trading that folks have been waiting for. Like right now, there isn't a super easy system of I'm going to give you this and you give me credits in return. So it sounds like most of that comes online for the first time with base building.
The idea behind limited use blueprints is literally just scarcity. It's just supply and demand. It keeps the economy going, and it keeps people interested in trading and doing that stuff. It probably also helps to balance if there's like a super weapon in this game, they can make sure that people can't just game the resources to, like, you can have two gates to allow the game to stop that gun from being overly produced. First, you have the resource spawn rate, and then you have the blueprint usage rate. It's the way I understand it, at least. Might be some other reasons, though.
So it sounds like one of the major components of base building will be this this next major step forward in player trading that folks have been waiting for. Like right now, there isn't a super easy system for of I'm going to give you this and you give me, credits in return. So it sounds like most of that comes online for the first time with base building.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to see actually the spread between, like local shops and people who band together to make like big market bases where it's shared and hundreds of people can come and sell their stuff.
Yeah. And that's not to say that obviously we've got Mode Trader app for Mobile Glass and stuff. That's not to say that this comes out before that comes out.
You guys remember what it used to be? What we used to have to do to trade money? You'd have to make a mission, a beacon, for somebody to find, and that person would have to be sitting there with the button, their finger over the button, ready to hit the button to accept that beacon so they could receive the money from your job. That was the only way to send money to a friend. It's so funny when somebody could get in between that and steal the money right out from under you.
It's just, as far as I'm aware, speaking in this moment right here, there's this, and I'm not up to date on the release of additional Mode Trader apps. So I'm not saying one comes before the other. I'm just speaking with what I know. Last question. We can let you all enjoy your weekend. When the Pioneer was first introduced in 2017, it was alongside it was this idea of land claims. And for every time the Pioneers come back into the pledge store, it's come back alongside land claims. In this year's IAE, it was brought back to the store without the land claims. That's led some people to speculate that land claims are gone.
Didn't that get people angry? I think I heard about that was making people mad that there weren't land claims with the Pioneer.
Or they're not a part of the design anymore. I'm going to say right now, they are. Let's talk about what our current thinking is, what our current plan is, what our current intention for how land claims are supposed to work. And keep in mind that, like everything else, there's a period of time between now and when this is implemented, and we reserve the right to have any better ideas that come along. We reserve the right to look at what you've said on Reddit and Spectrum and everywhere else on YouTube comments and have that inspire better ideas. So while we're
great for inspiration, dude. We have a way with words.
Things may change. Let's talk about what the current plan for implementation is for land claims.
Yeah, so there's a lot here. I'll kind of walk through just plots of land in general, and then we'll talk about how the land claim beacons fall into that. So when you go to acquire a plot of land to build on, there's a couple choices you need to make straight off the bat. We have a general plot, which allows you to build anything, and then there are prospecting plots, which are a little bit smaller.
It's solid to hear them talking about this kind of detail. It'd suck if they were like, yeah, we're planning on doing this and that. Like, he's saying these things like they've already figured out how it's supposed to work, which is nice.
Cheaper, and they're more geared towards mining. You'll see a square layered on the terrain, and that's basically your current selected plot of land. You can grab a face of it, make it a rectangle, make it to a bigger square, and this is you selecting the surface area that you want, and the cost scales up with the surface area.
Oh, that's cool. So they're not preset plots.
Purchase a 1 by 1 kilometer and then another 1 by 1 kilometer, it would actually be more expensive because the cost will take into account the total surface area you own on the planet. Where the beacon comes in is that you kind of skip this initial UEC cost for purchasing a plot. You just use the beacon and you have your plot of land. From then onwards, if you bought with UEC or you used a land claim beacon, there'll be a reoccurring UEC tax.
Literally exactly
and if you fail to pay that
what
tax,
we thought it would be. You're not buying land through those claims. You're just buying the ability to do what everybody else is going to do with the same kind of beacons.
Over a period of time, you'll begin to lose rights to your base, and eventually you'll lose complete ownership of the land, complete ownership of the building. They can be looted. Someone else can buy up that area. That's it's very important that we avoid this concept of like a dead base. We don't want people to be able to just go AFK either for a year, even though they stacked up billions in their account. We still don't want them to be able to have a dead base. We want to free that up for the players. In addition to that, there will be some limitations where you can buy plots of land and use beacons. We're going to have, for want of a better term, a national park, both in lawful and lawless areas, and it's a no-build zone, and this allows us to reserve land that's pristine for exploration, it's pristine for resource gathering, and so on.
Good.
I think that's... Oh no, there's one other thing, sorry. When you have your plot
of a national park on the local space station
land, there'll also be an exclusion zone around it where no one else can buy or build, so you can't get boxed in. That is...
We were talking about that, areas around your base. Wonder how big that'll be.
A level summary, I suppose, of the current plan for land claims and plots in general.
Gotcha. So let me see if I understand this to re-summarize it here. So anybody will be able to go and purchase a plot of land so long as it's available, so long as it's not in one of these no-build exclusion zones. You reference national parks. They're not literal national parks on Pyro 3 or whatever, but areas that are protected for gameplay reasons. We have to make sure that there's still plenty of areas to do missions and minables and stuff like this. So anybody will be able to buy a plot of land in one of the buildable areas. The land claims basically are your like coupon for that. It's like you can pay a brand new UEC cost to purchase that, or if you have a land claim, it's like, nope, I already prepaid. This is my prepaid voucher, and you hand that in, and you get the land claim for that. So it's open to everyone. One is just a voucher. You've already got that ready for you. After that, there is a maintenance cost. We talked about money sinks. Money sinks are essential to every video game economy that's ever existed. So there will be a recurring fee if you don't log in often enough. And again, the time period will be things that adjust like everything else in Star Citizen. If you don't log in enough to pay your stuff, eventually you'll lose control or ownership of that land, and then I assume anybody can do whatever the heck they want with your base and the stuff that you've...
That's where we probably get the salvaging of derelict bases.
You've put there. This is really good because, like you said, back on a Hazi server, I had a city on Naboo that was still there 4 years after I stopped playing. So, and then obviously again, reiterating the limitations, not every single space on the planet will be buildable. You're probably not going to be able to put your base right up against the wall of Lorville. For instance, there's going to be exclusion zones to maintain all the other gameplay elements. But we have a lot of planets and a lot of moons with a lot of surface area, and we're making more. So, yeah, that about get it, Declan?
I think that's about right. Yeah.
Cool. Gentlemen, that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here with us. It's always a pleasure to have you on here. I knew when we were putting together this presentation for CitizenCon, you know how excited I was from the first day on. Like this is there are jokes on Spectrum and Reddit about how crafting is the answer to everything. It's not the answer to everything, but it is the next.
Crafting has become very central to the game very quickly.
Major step forward in the evolution of our game, alongside base building, where finally, for the first time, you have a true sense of ownership in the builds in the universe. So I'm really excited about both. I know a lot of our players are. So thank you for your continued work. Obviously, between now and the release, we will follow up. There will be additional ISCs, additional SCLs where we address the questions that no doubt come up after this episode. So keep them coming. Torsten, Jacob, Luke, and Declan, thank you so much for your time. This is our last Star Citizen Live of the year. Folks, so thank you so much for tuning in. We have one more episode of ISC that airs next Thursday.
Oh my God.
It's our standard.
Wait, that's going to be the review of the year then. One more ISC? Don't they usually do one? No, I guess that's that. So then that means my review of the whole year will have to come out on like the 20th or the 21st?
Patch report episode where we're going to revisit a bunch of the stuff that are coming online with the upcoming 4.0, and then I gone fishing. We'll see you back here in 2025. So keep your eyes on the robertspaceindustries.com website for updates on 4.0 when it moves from into the next wave of PTU and then its eventual release. And
I wonder how much they're going to talk about that over the course of this month. Like 4.0 is such a Question mark.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for letting me do this. John, you did really well today. I can't tell the difference. Be nice to each other. We'll see you next year, everybody. Take care.
The one time I freaking encountered John, I walked up to him while we were streaming at CitizenCon 2023, and I walked up to it was him and a couple other devs in a group, and I totally just barged my way in like the annoying streamer with a light and camera and started asking them questions, and John was just like not having it. And I feel like that was about the response that I got at the time. So this was a really freaking good Star Citizen Live. Holy crap, they answered some very important questions. I mean, this was a roller coaster. Gosh, I went through so many emotions here. I think they did a good job of explaining things at a high level and hitting on some of the important questions that people really had when it came to base building. I mean, base building, missions, resources, trading. There's a lot of good information here that corresponds to a lot of the game. I'll probably rewatch this video 3 or 4 times. I will be having a good long podcast about this in a few hours, talking with Red Monster SC, mostly from the mining perspective and the resource perspective, but we'll be reviewing most of this. If you're a supporter, whether that's a YouTube channel member, Twitch subscriber, whatever it might be, and you're here on the show, come join us. It's already up there as an event on Discord. You should have access to the exclusive channel where you can watch our live podcasts as a supporter. So RSVP to that. Come join us. Check it out. We do some gossip. We do some chat, and it's good times. But this is a good talk. Couple of things in there a little disappointing. The idea of only being able to scan for or mine certain elements based on what you're using is one we'll have to keep an eye on. I just can't understand how you can survey a planet and find valuable minerals for ground miners to sell if you can't scan for ground minables from a ship. So maybe they're gonna change that. Maybe I misunderstood it. Whatever it might be, I hope that isn't the way it is, because we like freedom, you know? Let us do some stupid stuff and then pay for those decisions. Either ways, this was really good information. Couple of little disappointing points, but overall the information, the way it was delivered in this video, one of the best SCLs of the year, and I'm glad that we're finally starting. Well, I'm just glad that we've got that info with the blueprints, with everything. This is a huge part of progression and economy and late game gameplay that people are going to want to know about.